What's going on, guys? So it's finally time that I make my off-season outlook video. I've been putting this off for a while because I wanted to wait for free agency to start and see, if the Tigers made any qualifying offers to anyone and, what the roster would potentially look like. If the roster to open up on opening day right now, we wouldn't have a second baseman, but Tuiasa Sopo would be gone, Johnny Peralta's gone, like I said, Omar Infante is gone. Joaquin Benoit is gone. Jose Veras is gone. So we're losing quite a few guys. Phil Koch is gone. We're losing quite a few guys to the offseason. And this is kind of what I want to make this video about. Who I think the Tigers should go after. Who they should bring back. Who they shouldn't. Alright, so as for the people that are gone. I think priority number one in this offseason is going after Omar Infante. People have already shooting out the ideas of maybe going after Michael Young. I don't like Michael Young. His numbers have decreased every single year over the last couple years. He just doesn't get on base anymore. He's slugging under 400. He's a league average player who's going to continue to fall. I mean, if you want to go by WAR, he was 0.1 in WAR. I mean, he is barely above a league average player, and he's going to just continue to digress, and he's 38, he's going to be 39, he's continued to digress. He can't play defense anymore. He's not a good hitter. He'll get you he'll still get you close to 30 doubles, which isn't bad, but it's not worth putting him out there every single day when he can't play defense and he can't hit nearly like he could before, and he don't drive in runs anymore. And then you look at other free agents like Cano. He's not coming to Detroit. Sorry, he's not getting $300 million from the Tigers. He's not going to get $3 million at all, in my opinion. And then Mark Ellis is out there and a couple other guys, but priority number one is definitely re-signing Omar Infante. If you have to re-sign Infante to a deal that's a little bit more you'd like to pay him, maybe $12 or $13 million a year, so be it. Because second baseman right now in the major leagues is one of the thinnest positions to find offense, a well-rounded player out of. There's very few in the league. You got guys like Brandon Phillips, guys like Cano. It used to be Dan Uggla, but not anymore. And Omar Infante. Those guys are all in the top 5 in second baseman in the big leagues. And if it's a position that if you don't re-sign Omar, you're going to get back in the same position where you were when you let Polanco walk. You had Scott Sizemore there, Danny Worth there, Ryan Rayburn, Brandon Inge, Carlos Guillen, Will Rhymes. I mean, it was a revolving door, and you don't want to reopen it back up. So if you have to overpay on Infante a little bit, so be it, because he's going to give you, 8 to 12 homers a year, drive you in 60, hit close to 300 or a little over it, get on base at a close to a 350 clip, and he's a viable piece while playing good defense. Him and Iglesias up the middle. So that's priority number one. Second, I want to address the left field issue. Now, there's 2 left fielders I'd like to see. I want to see Dirks continue to be in a platoon role, get spot starts a couple times a week. I'd like to see either Sin-Soo Choo or Carlos Beltran. Now, if Carlos Beltran comes here, I'd like that a lot because you can give him a Torrey Hunter-style deal, a short 2-year deal, maybe $12 million per. And you could get a guy that, he hit nearly 300 last year. He slugged close to, I believe he slugged close to 460 or 470, so he still slugs at a really, really good pace. Drove in 90 or 80 runs. I'm getting the numbers up right now. He slugged 491, so he's still slugging nearly 500, which is outstanding. An OPS of 830. Got on base at a 339 clip, which isn't bad. 296 batting average, only struck out 90 times, 38 walks, 24 homers, 84 RBIs. So, I mean, he's still nearly meeting all his career averages. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And, he's only going to be 37, so he's right around Torrey Hunter's age, and he'd be a perfect guy, looking to win that ring. He'd be a great complimentary bat. And you get a guy that could hit well in the postseason, and then you could replace Johnny Peralta's offense with, because you're not going to have him back next year. And, he could play left field. He's not going to be anything of an amazing defender as he used to be, because he used to be a really good outfielder. He's not going to show him any signs of that anymore, as we saw with Torrey Hunter, a guy who has almost 10 gold gloves on his mantle. He wasn't as good as defensively as you'd like to see out of him, but, it'd be like that. And he'd bring a switch hitter that could fill in Johnny Peralta's spot. But Then you could keep Jackson lead off. And I think Jackson's been getting a lot of crap for leadoff hitters that he's not a good one. I mean, he's cut down on his strikeouts every single year. He's hit 300 before in his career. Over the last 2 years, he's posted really good OBPs among leadoff hitters. He's been in the top 5 each. Scored 100 runs every single year of his career. He's the only Tigers leadoff hitter besides Lou Whitaker to ever do that. He's shown pretty good pop. Great defender. I think he's a good leadoff hitter. But the guy who I really want most, if you're going to truly fill the left field problem for a few years, you go out and sign Sin-Soo Choo, because you could, like I said about Jackson, I think he's a good leadoff hitter, but you could get a guy who's a bona fide leadoff hitter at the top of your order, and you could bump Jackson down. And the reason why I think that would work out best for everyone is, like I said, Jackson is a great leadoff hitter, and like I said, he's cut down on strikeouts and everything else, but he's also shown pretty good power. He had 12 home runs last year. I believe he had 15 the year before. He had 16 the year before, and then 10. He's shown that he's got some pop at his bat from the 4 home runs he hit in his first year. So you could do that. Bump Jackson down, and I think if you bump Jackson down in the lineup, you could potentially see a bit more power out of him because he's out of the leadoff spot, and you could have a bit of a different mentality when you're in the 7th hole. Now, don't get me wrong, it's all about getting on base, getting hits, but maybe being in the 7th hole a little bit more, he would be able to maybe hit, those 12 or 15 home runs could go to 20 or 25 home runs because he'd be lower in the lineup. You could maybe get 75, 80 RBIs out of him because he's lower in the lineup, and not always, because when you're a leadoff guy, you get almost 200 at-bats a year without a guy on base. You get at least 100, and if you play 162 games, you get at least 162 at-bats without anyone on in front of you. So it's really, really hard to drive in a lot of runs when you're in the leadoff spot. That's why what Mike Trout does is so impressive, especially his rookie year, driving in almost 100. So you could bump him down. You see it, he'd be in a lower spot in the lineup. You could potentially get more power out of him, and maybe a little bit more RBIs in production. And then you could get Choo, who, he's about one of the best leadoff hitters in the game. He steals you 20 bags, hit 285, 423 OBP, 462 slug, 885, so nearly a 900 OPS, 143 OPS plus. 21 homers, 54 RBIs. He's a guy, he did strike out 133 times, which is lackluster, but walked 112. So, you can't complain at that at all. And, you go, and I talk about all the time about signing guys on the borderline of 30 and how I don't like it. Well, Choo is kind of an exception to the rule because he's done nothing to get better as he's gotten older, towards the doorstep of 30. And, he's becoming a better hitter. He's drawing more walks. He's getting on base at a better pace. He's done nothing but improve from 2011 on. From 2011, he hit 259, 344, 390, 733 OPS. He's done nothing but raise all those numbers every single year. He's becoming a better hitter. So if he goes from 20 to 12, if he goes from 20 stolen bases to 10 a year, and from 21 homers to about 15, and stays about the same RBIs, but still puts up the same slash, 285, 423, 462, and while posts an OPS of 885 and an OPS plus of 143, it'd be perfect. He's your ideal guy. You signed him a 4-year deal, and hitting does not ever go away. Knowing how to hit does not ever go away. That's why Miguel Cabrera is going to be good for a long time. His power may go away or everything else, but if you can hit 300 and get on base at a 380 clip, you're gonna have a job anywhere in the big leagues. Because it don't matter if you're driving in. If you play 162 games and you hit 20 homers, drive out 75 RBIs, but get on base at 380, slug close to 500, you're gonna have a job anywhere. And that's good. And that's what Sin-Soo Choo I think of him as a guy. He's going to regress a little bit, but I see his OVP coming back down maybe like 390, 400. Hit closer to 300 if he cuts down on the strikeouts. Power might drop down a tad bit because he is going to, if he'd beat Comerica Park. And his steals will go down a little bit because we don't know how Brad Ausmus is as a running manager or not. But I think it'd be an ideal spot for him, and you can bump Jackson down. I think he'd be a great leadoff hitter. So let's speed this up a little bit. In the bullpen-wise, I want to see Benoit brought back, and I'd love to see Joe Nathan brought back. Or brought here, I should say, because Joe Nathan, he's a guy, you look through the numbers. I was talking to my friend Mike last night. You can put any of his last 2 seasons, because people are going to talk about his age and him being old. He's like Mariano Rivera. You could take Mariano Rivera's age 44 season and look at his age 28 season. You know, there's no difference. He's closing out games at an elite pace, and his numbers aren't changing. He's just a guy that knows how to get outs. He still pitches with pretty good velocity. He's got nasty stuff, and it doesn't matter how old he is. He's just getting guys out. Now, if you don't bring back Benoit and you just sign Nathan as your eighth inning or your ninth inning guy, and then you maybe get like a Javi Lopez, and so your bullpen could be like Nathan, Lopez, Smiley, Rendon, Albuquerque. You may be looking into bringing one more cheaper, cost effective. Right-hander, you maybe take like a risk on signing a guy like Jesse Crane. Maybe he comes back healthy, but you can get him cheap. I'd have no problem with that. But I want Joe Nathan wearing a Tigers uniform by the start of next year. If I could only get Joe Nathan and Omar Infante out of all my free agents, and I have to deal with Andy Dirks in left field next year, I would do it because you're gonna win games. You would win games. You could let anyone else walk on that team. Besides Omar Infante, and you bring me back Joe Nathan, I think it's a successful. You bring Joe Nathan in, I think it's a successful offseason, to be honest with you. And I would deal with Dirks' crappiness in left field. Even though he doesn't do well in an everyday starter's role, it's been proven. When Dirks went into a platoon role in the second half, he hit 306. He's just not. He's not an everyday starter. You bring another right hand. You let Castellanos platoon with him and left. So be it. You got to go that route. But I want Nathan and Infante for sure. And in the offseason, I already made my video on why they should trade Max Scherzer. You get some pieces for him. Like I said with the whole Dickey thing. The Blue Jays had to give up Darno and Syndergaard to get Dickey and a couple other pieces to get Dickey, even though he didn't help him out that much. You need to move. You need to move forward. Get some younger talent that's going to make your team prolong for a little while. Because a lot of people don't realize this. Next year is the Tigers' last year, in my opinion, that they can contend for a World Series title. Because come 2015, you no longer have Torrey Hunter. You no longer have Victor Martinez. And you have to let Victor Martinez walk. Because if you want to sign Cabrera long term, you got to have a DH spot open up for him. Because him and Fielder are going to need it as they get older. You can't just keep having Cabrera play third every day. He's getting injured. He's been injured more the last few years than he has been his entire career because of playing third. So you're going to need that DH spot open. So you got to let Victor Martinez walk so you can have him and Fielder and Cabrera get older. So no Fielder, or no Hunter, no Martinez, potentially no Scherzer. And if you keep him next year just to keep him, then don't re-sign him, then you're left with nothing. You're sitting there holding, pissing in the wind. You got nothing back for him. So that was a complete waste. Especially you don't win the World Series if you do keep them. So 2015, you lose your entire core. So say you don't re-sign Infante. In 2015, your team could be Avila, Fielder. You don't know who's going to be your second baseman. Iglesias, Cabrera, Dirks, Jackson, and probably Castellanos in the outfield for be your outfield. And then you don't know who the closer's going to be. You don't know what your bullpen's going to look like. The Tigers could go from a team that could be a 95 winner to an 83 game winner come 2015. A lot of people aren't looking at it like this. Next year is the year that the Tigers have to win the World Series because come 2015, the whole core of that group changes. You don't know who's going to be back. A lot of guys are coming up for contracts. A lot of dudes are going to be closer into mid-30s by then. And I'm telling you, next year is it. Next year is the last year they have with this core group. Your Martinez, Fielder, Hunter, Cabrera, Fielder, hopefully Infante. This is it. Next year is it. If they don't win it next year, everything changes come 2015. Because, like I said, you have to let Martinez go because Cabrera, if you want to sign Cabrera long term, because you have the DH spot open. Hunter's going to be gone to retirement. What are you going to do about Fister and Porcello? Because I think those guys are free agents after 2015. It's going to be next year's it. So they got to do something. This offseason is absolutely crucial. And I think if I could have my dream Tigers lineup, it would be Avila, Fielder, Infante, Iglesias, Cabrera, Chu in left, and then Jackson in center, Hunter in right. And then in the bullpen would be Nathan, Benoit, Albuquerque, Bruce Rendon, Drew Smiley, and Javi Lopez. That would be my ideal Tigers team. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But if they're going to do anything this offseason and they need to do something, they better bring back Omar Infante and they better go after Joe Nathan. That's all I'm saying. That's all I got for you guys today. Go Tigers.